All right. Others? Number 18. Oh, yeah. Look at that beauty. Okay. Everybody repeat after me. Harbe. Arbe. Okay. This means I will much go to Arby's and eat lots of Arby melts. Yeah. Okay. So we've been talking about the verb rava, and it looks like we've got it back here, right? With a vengeance. This is rava on steroids. I have a hey in front of the resh of rava. What should that tell you? Yeah, this is hifil or hofal, right? Now, there's roots 1 and 2. I have a sere hey at the end, and I have an A-class vowel here. So these are the two things that are going to help me to know whether it's hifil or hofal and what's the conjugation form. First of all, the A-class vowel tells me it's which of these two? The hifil. Okay, hofal gets U-class. Sere hey at the end. Well, here, let's stop and pause for a moment. The hifil has the hey visible in which 4 conjugation patterns? The hifil perfect, imperative, and both infinitives, right? Construct and absolute. If this is the hifil perfect, what vowel would I have here? A or I class? I class. So we can get rid of that. Could this be the imperative? That's a possibility, right? Could it be the infinitive construct? What do 3 hey verbs do for their infinitive construct forms? It's always oat for the infinitive construct in the 3 hey verb. I don't have oat here, do I? So I can get rid of infinitive construct. So I may be looking at an imperative. What about the infinitive absolute? Yeah, that's a possibility too. Now let's double check our verb paradigms and just see if that really is possible. So I'm here on my 3 hey page with gala as my paradigm verb, but go to the imperative and I have hog lay. The hey with the pathak, and then after root 2, I have the sere hey. That certainly looks like a hifil imperative, doesn't it? Harbe. But if I go down to my infinitive absolute, I have hog lay, and harbe matches all the vowel pointing. That could be the infinitive absolute as well, right? So both of those are possible. Looking at what we actually have, I have matching roots of rava and what looks like an imperfect, possibly an imperfect 1CS form. Which one of those do I have both of these lined up together in? Imperatives or infinitive absolutes? Yeah, in the infinitive absolute. The emphasis use of the infinitive absolute gives me the absolute of one root and a finite verb of the same root. Okay? So I'm going to assume that we're looking at an infinitive absolute here. Okay? Now, what is arbe? Is that hifil? Yeah, my prefix olive has the A-class vowel. And for the hifil, imperfect 1CS, is the hifil imperfect 1CS an uninflected form on the backside? Anything imperfect 1CS should have 0 ending, right? I have yod, tav, tav, Keurig yod for the 2FS, and then aleph with no ending for the 1CS. So this is uninflected. And all 3 hey uninflected forms in the imperfect get a segel hey. Okay, so this is following the 3 hey weakness here. So the front part looks like a normal hifil imperfect, but the back part doesn't. Because the hifil imperfects usually have Keurig yod in the middle, don't they? But I'm not going to see that with my 3 hey verb. Okay, so I only have the front part to go on to know that's hifil. All right, so this could be hifil imperfect. It could also be a cohortative 1CS. 3 hey verbs, cohortative forms, do not show the comets hey. They have the segel hey of the imperfect as well. So I can't tell the difference between them. Let's take a look at your paradigm, though, to confirm that. Go back to your weak verb and look at the cohortative and the 1CS. Okay, the cohortative hifil is agle, and go up to the cohortative or the imperfect once es, and it's agle. Same. Okay? So without any context, we don't really know whether to take this exercise we're looking at as imperative or cohortative. It could be both. So if it's cohortative, it's let me multiply for sure. All right? Let me totally multiply. That's not like a valley girl. Or if it's just the imperfect, it's I will surely multiply. That's probably what we're talking about, right? This sounds like a promise that maybe someone like Adonai would make, right? I will surely multiply you, for example. Anyhow, that's the way we do that with the infinitive absolute. Okay? Other questions here? Let's look at number 8 here. I have hashke. Everybody say that with me. Hashke. So, that hey could be a root 1 hey, or it could be a prefix. What's your bet? Yeah? Let's assume it's a prefix hey. That means that I'm looking at root 1, root 2, root 3's gone, possibly, right? Is there a verb in our world where we have a 3-hey verb shaka? Yes, we have learned that. That would make good sense. And if this is a hey, it'd be which 2 stems? Hifil or hofal. The A-class vowel, it's looking hifilish, right? Now, does my hifil hey close the syllable with root 1 like this? Hush. Yeah, that does, right? So I don't really want to have to think about any other possibilities. It looks like that really is roots 1, 2, and 3 missing, as opposed to root 2 missing. Root 2 and 3 and 1 missing, right? So this is looking like a hifil. Now, with the A vowel, it's, yeah, perfect goes out the window because I have an I vowel. But it could be imperative and the 2 infinitives, right? Construct or absolute. Sere hey, we just went through this. Could that be the infinitive construct of a 3-hey verb? Nope, because what do all 3-hey verbs have for their infinitive construct? Ot. Okay, ot. So I don't have that. So this is the infinitive absolute or the imperative. And if it's the imperative, which imperative form is that? It's the 2ms. It's the uninflected one. All 3-hey imperatives are going to get sere hey, no matter what stem we're in. 2fs, I have to drop this and add what to the end for the imperative 2fs? Kirik yod. To tell a woman, I put a kirik yod on the end. To make it masculine 2mp, I drop this and add a shurik. So it'd be hashku. Okay? Now, so this is the imperative 2ms or the infinitive absolute. Both of those are possible. What does shaka mean in the hifil? To water or irrigate something. So what would the imperative hifil mean? It'd be a command. Water. Water. Irrigate. Okay? If it's the absolute, to water. Okay? We usually want another verb with our infinitive absolute to be able to know how to translate it best. But those are the 2 possibilities. Okay? Now, while we're on this little column, look at number 10. I have tsuvenu. Everybody, tsuvenu. All right. What's the new ending, probably? That's identifiable as a 1CP for which conjugation? Perfect. Okay, perfect 1CP. I've got most of my parsing done. What do I have before my perfect new ending? I only have 2 consonants and a sere yod, right? So either this is 1, 2, and 3's missing, or this is 2, 3, and 1's missing. Here's the question. For any of my verbs that are weak in root 1, what were those? 1 noons, 1 yods, 1 vavs. And then I have gutturals that are weak, but just because of compound shava issues, right? I don't have root 1 gutturals dropping out, but I do have 1 noons and one yods that are originally 1 vav dropping out, right? But where does that happen? Where does aphoresis happen? Does it ever happen in the perfect? No, it happens in the, remember my quick rule, the cal imperative and infinitive construct type of situations, right? So this is not 2 and 3. This is 1 and 2, and root 3 is showing up as a mater, right? As a seriyod. So this is going to be pretty easy then. This must be the verb tsadi, vav, and if 3 is missing, it's a hey in my lexical form, right? Sava. What stem am I looking at when I have a shurik, a kibbutz, and a doubling dot here in the vav? That's got to be pual. Are we sure that that is a doubling dot and not a shurik historically long vowel? Yes, that's right. If I had a shurik here, how many vowels in a row would I have? Kibbutz, shurik, sere. That just ain't kosher. Okay? Can't do that. So that is a real vav, consonant vav. What does the verb tzava mean in the PL? To command. Pual means to be commanded. So with nu as the subject, it's we what? Make it passive. We were commanded. We were commanded. All right? Alrighty. Other questions? By the way, look at your weak verb paradigm and check this form. Look at the pual perfect 1 CP. Do you have the same sort of vowel pointing? Pual perfect 1 CP is, here it is. Oops, I'm in the imperfect here. Gulenu, right? Just different root letters, but the same vowel pointing, gulenu. So yep, we've identified our form. Okay, so number 11, we have Adonai Ro'i. Adonai is the Lord. Ro'i, how many consonants do I see here? I just see 2, right? So either I'm missing root 1, and this is 2 and 3, or I'm seeing 1 and 2, and root 3 is missing. So what are my possibilities here? If this is 1 and 2, then it's resh, ayin, what? Hey. If it's roots 2 and 3, resh and ayin, then root 1 is noon or yod, right? Those are places where I could have root 1 missing. Now, do I have any verbs that have the bottom 2 consonants? Nara or yara with an ayin and not an aleph? You've learned yara with an aleph, right? You've not learned yara with an ayin. Okay? So none of these combinations work. That means that I'm looking at roots 1 and 2 and root 3 is missing. Okay, so this is the verb ra'ah, which means to, basically to shepherd, right? To tend. Yeah, this is from Psalm 23. So what do I have here? Let's take a look again a little bit more carefully at this form. I've got a holum with root 1. What kind of verb form does a holum with root 1? Yes, and which stem? That's right, the cal participle. So I've got ra'ah, and I've got cal participle here. So we're going to jot that down here. Now, here's the question. Does kirik yod occur as an ending, as an inflectional ending on any of my cal participles? It does not. It does not. So what does that mean? That probably means that I've added a pronominal suffix to this, right? that Keurig yod could be a 1cs pronominal suffix. Now, let's ask ourselves, what would be the cal participle, masculine singular, if it didn't have a pronoun attached to it? What would it be? Well, we know it would be resh with a holum, ayin, and then what is the masculine singular uninflected ending for participles that are 3 hey? What did we learn in our lesson? It's segel hey, ro a. Okay? And then when I want to make it feminine singular, what do I have to do? I have to chop off the back and then add the comet hey to it, because I can't add any endings to a hey that's not a real hey, right? If I want to make it masculine plural, I chop off the segel hey and add eem, ro eem. Feminine plural, chop off that and add oat, ro oat. So what if I want to add a Keurig yod to the end of the masculine singular form? Can I add it to a mater hey? No. What am I going to do? Well, I'm going to do what I do when I want to just add other inflectional endings. I get rid of the segel hey, and then I take what I want to add and attach it directly to root 2. Okay? So my Keurig yod's got to go after the ayin. So ro e is my shepherding one. Okay? The participle is functioning as a substantive. Adonai is my shepherding one. That is to say, Adonai is my shepherd, or the Lord is my shepherd. Okay? I'm missing a copula here. I got to add that in English. All right? Look at number 3. I have ra'itha. Ra'itha. Is there anything on the end of this that makes it identifiable? The ta ending? If you have that, you've got the parsing almost entirely, don't you? This is what? Perfect 2ms. That's right. Good. Now, take a look at what we've got at the front end. I have 2 root letters. So what am I looking at? This is either root 1 and 2 and root 3 is missing, or 1 is missing and I see 2 and 3 here. Based on what you've learned in the chapter, with that Keurig yod in the middle before the consonantal ending, which one of these is the more likely situation? Yeah, that root 3 is missing. That this is resh aleph hey, 3 hey, right? Now, if that's the case, let's just entertain that for a second. What would a long A under root 1 in the perfect, what stem would that be? Where do I have no prefixes? Well, let's start with that. Where do I have no prefixes with perfect endings? There's 3 places that I have perfix with no prefixing. Cal, PL, Pual, right? Now, where do I have long A under root 1 among those 3? Only the cal, right? Pa, kad, pa, kada, and so forth. So I can go ahead and write cal perfect there, right? Now, if this were a root 1 missing and I'm looking at root 2 and 3, what would have to be the case before the ta ending if I had root 3 visible? Well, what did we learn a little earlier? What kind of shiva goes under root 3 before the consonantal endings like ta and ti and te? A silent shiva, right? I'd have a silent shiva if I had root 3. So if this is a 3 hey verb, though, then root 2 is the last consonant I get, and then I have the helping vowel and then the ta. So I don't see root 3. That's why there's no silent shiva right before the ta, okay? So this is the cal perfect of ra'ah, 2ms. How would I translate that? In the cal, it means to see, so it's you saw. That's right. You saw or you perceived. All right. Good. Others? Number 4, we have all tiv ku. All tiv ku. Notice we've got an all negator here and what looks like it could be a prefix tav. So I'm going to be going with what? Imperfect or jussive with that prefix? Got to go with jussive because all always negates jussives when the form could be imperfect or jussive, right? So assuming that that tav is a prefix tav, and remember, all only negates volitional forms, and volitional forms are always prefix forms, right? When I'm negating them. The cohortative has a prefix. The jussives have prefixes, right? I never use all to negate the perfect because the perfect is never volitional, all right? So I think we're safe to just say, okay, that's got to be the prefix tav. And on the back side, I have shurik over here, right? Where do I have prefix tav and shurik on the outsides of my verb form? That's imperfect or jussive, 2MP, right? That's 2MP. Now, in the middle, I only see two consonants, don't I? So here's the question. I'm either looking at roots 1 and 2 and 3's gone, or I'm looking at roots 2 and 3 and 1 is gone. Which is going to make the best sense here? Yeah, that I'm looking at 1 and 2 and 3 is a 3-hey verb, right? Bet, kaf, hey. Bet, kaf, hey means to do what? To weep. To weep. And look, I have a curic under the nutty prefix and a silent shava under root 1 if this is in fact root 1. What stem is that? Which stem gets curic silent shava under prefix and root 1? That's the cal, right? The nifal gets a doubling dot in root 1 and a kametz. The PL and puwal have nutty prefixes but vocal shava under it. The hifil and hofal have A-class vowels and the hifil U-class vowels under, right, pathak or kametz ketuf. So only one place does this, and it's the cal. Okay? Now, let me just back up for a moment before we, let's translate it, and then we'll talk about what would happen if this were 2 and 3, okay? How would I translate this? I could understand this as a direct prohibition not to do something, and if that's the way it is, how would I translate this? That's not really as much of a direct command, right? Like, use the imperative, but remember, in Hebrew, to negate an imperative, I always have to switch to a second person jussive with all, or a second person imperfect with lo. I would just say, don't do that, right? Do not, or don't, bacha. Don't weep. Don't cry. Okay? Now, I could translate a prohibition as something like, you shall not weep. But I'd be using the lo tivku, right? I'd be using lo plus the imperfect second person, and it would be a more generic prohibition, a general prohibition, as opposed to a specific one, okay? But here we're using the jussive, so that this is a specific prohibition. Don't cry. Don't weep. Now, let's go back over here. Assume for a moment that we think this is really roots 2 and 3. Then what's my missing root 1? What are the possibilities for that? Noon, or it could be a vav, original vav that was a yod, right? Or that's become a yod. What's the problem with thinking that I've got a noon missing here? What would have happened to the noon inside this root letter, bet? That's right. The noon would have assimilated, and there would have been a doubling dot here if this were a one noon verb and I'm looking at roots 2 and 3, right? So that wouldn't work. What about the vav, a one vav verb? What would the cal imperfect or jussive look like here? It would have not a kirik, but a sere, right? Ye shave, te shave, right? I'd have a sere. So none of these are working out very well for thinking that root 1 is missing. It really is a 3-hay verb, okay? So I'm just wanting you to see that from the things we're learning, it's not possible to be some of these other things. Okay, so don't weep. This is my encouragement to you guys too. Al tifku. Do not weep. No, too late. All right.